Make mine the P-Funk. I want my funk uncut. Yeah, make my funk the P-Funk. I want to get funked up. I want the P-Funk. Yeah. Make mine the P. Get funked up.
Funk is fun, and it's a state of mind, but it's also all the ramifications of that state of mind. You know, once you do the best you can, funk it.
Funk up on a time when humankind had fallen out of rhythm with the cosmic stroke. There came from the farthest reaches of the chocolate Milky Way a key that would free the minds and asses of generations. For centuries, this key remained among the secrets of the pyramids, until the arrival in the 70s of a band of freaked-out Afro-Knots, endowed with true groove. Intergalactic passports gave their name as Parliament Funkadelic. Now, we needs to duck back into the 50s to see how all this got started. So, excuse me while I put my do-rag on. In this funky tale, all roads lead back to New Jersey. In 1956, George Clinton got the funk ball rolling in Newark when he started a doo-wop group called the Parliaments. Later, in the town of Plainfield, New Jersey, the Parliaments tightened up their thing while hanging at a barbershop where George did hair.
Everything went on at the barbershop. On Saturday, it was the meeting place for most of the grown-ups, you know. Everybody be there lying and telling jokes. It was just one big place in town where it was hip to hang out at.
It was all about the barbershop, you see. You go in like this. And you come out like this. Fried, dyed, and laid to the side.
If you hung out at the barbershop, you was automatically cool. You know, you had a process, you was cool.
George had them big old hocks. And he could put that finger wave in your hair, boy, and he could put a wave in there that would, especially this first wave, boy, it would probably stay for a week and a half.
I like doing hair just like I did music, so I basically would, if I didn't have nothing to do, I would go ahead and do your hair.
Inside this particular barbershop, they wasn't just cooking up bad hairdos, but some bad-ass harmony to boot.
Now he's sitting there with his head hung low, tears falling from his eyes on the floor, he's crying, "Oh, Willie."
When he formed his group, the Parliaments, they were more of a doo-wop type of a group.
The doo-wop scene was like a competitive type of thing. You know, who had the best do, who had the prettiest suit on, and who did the funkiest steps.
In those days, the Motown sound was the sound.
We got the address off the label one day and decided to give them a call for an audition, and they told us to come down. And that initiated that first trip
September
to Detroit.
22nd, 1962.
We went in there, we auditioned, and they told us we sounded too much like either the Temptations or the Four Tops.
The Parliaments finally did land a record deal with the small Detroit label, Rebel-Lock Records. After 5 years in 1967, they had a hit, I Wanna Testify.
I just wanna testify what your love has done for me. Everybody sing.
Our first hit record, 1967, song went up the chart, zoom. Hey, and now we got to get this thing together where we got this gig at the Apollo Theater.
We was headlining over top of the OJs, the Impressions, a whole lot of big stars, and they was all wondering how do we become the headliners of the show. We got out there and screwed up so bad.
We hadn't been the type of group that did a lot of rehearsing, but we rehearsed like everything for the Apollo Theater, boy, our big chance.
I won't say totally unprepared, but we were, number one, we were nowhere near as professional as we thought we were.
We came out on it messing up like the Five Stooges or something, all bumping into each other and stuff. And boy, I started getting nervous and everything then.
And when the pickup's supposed to come, the music went. Hey, it went violins and stuff, man. It was nothing happening, boy. And I was trying to sing. I remember looking up at all them people.
So it sounded like an amateur show, you know, but we kept right on singing. We almost got away with it on the humor side because it looked like we was goofing.
When you hear a lot of that early stuff, you just go, why did you ever attempt to try to fit in? Y'all were always going that way. Just give up. And eventually they were forced to give up.
We couldn't keep our ties alike, couldn't keep the suits clean, hair was always undone. You realize the reality of that was really silly, especially when the hippies had just hit the scene and it was hip to be, you know, funky looking. We didn't have no whole bunch of hit records to do it anyway, so it was natural for us to become hippies.
What is soul? I don't know. Oh no, oh no.
Soul is the ring around your bathtub. Lie on, baby. We will not harm you. Oh, God. Wow!
Back in 1968, Parliament was under contract to Revelot Records. And lo and behold, there were some problems over at Revelot, and the name was tied up. So while the name was tied up, fellas couldn't do an awful lot. So that's when George had come over and said, Arm, why don't we put a whole thing together and call it Funkadelic? And I thought, wow, Funkadelic. I mean, you know, this is a word that was very close to other words. And I thought, boy, this is going to be a shocker.
All hell was breaking loose. Riots in the hood, Vietnam, LSD. The Parliament's transmutrified into a wild-ass rock group with 2 record deals under 2 different names, Parliament and Funkadelic. George was getting his hustle down, though at the time a lot of people just thought the nigga was crazy.
Things were changing by leaps and bounds musically, and you could try entirely new things, and George was part of this scene. In Detroit, it was an average night to go and hear the Stooges, Parliament Funkadelic, and the MC5 on the same show. And we were all into